All right. Welcome to another edition of You Can't Make This Shit Up. Your hosts, David and Danielle. Welcome,
Hi.
Danielle.
Hi, thanks for
This
having me.
You are most welcome. This is your first co-hosting of You Can't Make This Shit Up. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We are going to jump right into it here. Jennifer Crumbley, the mother of Michigan school shooter Ethan Crumbley, testified in her own defense, and as her lawyer stated, that this manslaughter, excuse me, let's do this over again. Jennifer Crumbley, the mother of Michigan school shooter Ethan Crumbley, testified in her own defense as her manslaughter trial ended with a guilty verdict. The trial is a rare case of parents being charged in connection to a child's mass shooting. Has this trial tested the limits of parental accountability for their children's actions? There we go. Let's go, Danielle. What say you?
I say that this case was a really big step in gun violence in the way that, specifically this case, the parents are so guilty just from child neglect and everything, which we had touched on a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think this was right that she was found guilty on 4 counts of second-degree manslaughter, thank God. But as I said, with the child neglect thing, there's so much to touch on there. And I'm not an expert on that or anything. I know that it's different for every state.
Mm-hmm.
But Ethan Crumbley, who was the murderer of the Oxford High School shooting in 2021, where he killed 4 children and then 6 other were injured, including a teacher. And he was charged with 1 account of terrorism and 4 counts of first-degree murder. He was struggling with mental issues for the longest time, though. And as we talked about, he is a victim of that. But there's also a negative connotation with that word because we're not sympathizing with him at all.
That's correct. We're not. He is responsible for his actions.
Yes, 100%.
There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan suffered, like you said, from mental health issues. That's very clear. He was hearing voices. He thought for a long time that his home was haunted and actually named the ghost in his home. And his parents chimed in and they also gave names to the ghost. But he reached out to his parents in text messages. He reached out to his best friend saying that, his parents were failing him, that he needed the help. He needed to see a doctor. And at every opportunity, the parents decided not to address their son's needs. And as a mental health professional and working with abuse and neglect children in Illinois, granted, like you said, the rules are different, the laws are different, but very similar. Given the opportunity, I would have granted an investigation for mental injury, for neglect against the parents, for failure to intervene in the mental health issues of their son, Ethan. And with this particular case, granted, family court has a much lower standard of proof. However, with this particular case, yes, does it test the levels of responsibility that parents have for the actions of their children, especially in a situation where other people die? I am glad this happened. I know many legal experts thought that, this wasn't going to go anywhere. It went somewhere. It went with a guilty verdict against Miss Crumbley, and she didn't help herself out.
No. And thank God it did, because these parents, Jennifer Crumbley and her husband, are definitely guilty. And as you were saying, he had named the ghost in his house, and he had texted his friend, I'm just reading it, that his mother actually laughed at him. And that is the first one. The second, the school gave the parents 2 warnings when he was looking up ammunition on school computers. And apparently he was looking up YouTube videos of a guy shooting people.
Wow.
And they did nothing about that. She sent him a text message saying, I'm not mad at you. You just have to be careful. Wow. Which they can argue, she can counter with that they were going to the shooting range all the time and they were using their Second Amendment right and everything, which is fine. But on a school computer, like with everything going on with the school shootings in the past 10 years, that is not okay. And the school has to hold some accountability with that too, the counselor.
And in a way, doing this on the school computer, I'm sure Ethan knew
Yeah.
that it was being monitored. And in a way, this could be seen as
A cry for help.
a cry for help,
Yeah. I didn't
knowing
even
that
think
there will
about
be
that.
intervention. And there's so many. When I was involved in child abuse and neglect investigations in Illinois, we would have to do an assessment of the family and how they got to a point where our investigators were involved. And looking at these assessments, we try to piece, at least I try to piece, where
Mhm.
there were different opportunities to intervene. How many places where things could have stopped,
Mhm.
things could have been addressed before we got to a point where the Department of Children and Family Services, local law enforcement were involved.
Yeah.
And there's so many in this particular case, just from the news
Yeah.
accounts, there's so many different places where an intervention may have prevented this. In particular, which you just mentioned, what occurred in school,
Mhm.
where was the school's responsibility? Where was the
The
principal and
counselors.
school
Mhm.
counselor?
And then it goes from there too. That was the first one. The second warning was when he was doodling on his desk of him shooting people and there was blood everywhere. And he was literally writing, "The thoughts won't stop. I need help. Someone help
Correct.
me." And they called him in, the counselor did, and they called the teachers in again. However, the counselor did not specifically ask the parents to take him home. And that is a failure on the counselor's part. But the the parents should have known to take him home too. That is not normal. That is not normal for a kid to write that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If the parents refuse to intervene at that time and you call them in the
Mhm.
middle of the school day, in the middle of their work day, someone at the school understood that this was a matter that needed to be addressed right
Yeah.
then and there. And when the parents absolved themselves of any responsibility that day, counselor, if they had the power of a mandate reporter to take custody of that child, and in Illinois is you have to be a child abuse and neglect investigator or a law enforcement officer or a medical physician of some sort, a medical authority. Uh, However, at least at a minimum, the school's counselor and the principal could have called the authorities
Mhm.
and said, you know, we just want to err on the on caution here.
Yeah.
Come assess Ethan for a mental health crisis.
Mhm. And that's the other thing with the school accountability too, is why didn't they? With
Mhm.
everything that was going on, why didn't they do that? Why
Right.
didn't they take that action? Because an hour or so later, he killed 4 children,
That's correct.
and those lives don't come back. So,
And maybe that was that opportunity because he could have reached into his bag and did whatever he needed to do right then and there, but he
yeah.
didn't.
Mm-mm.
And maybe right then and there, he was hoping that there was going to be some relief.
Some change, yeah. There wasn't.
And that's the sad part.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to have to hear these stories over and over again. What could have, what should have. And again, I've got 21 years of PTSD over this stuff.
Yeah.
And when we first addressed this particular uh, case months ago when it started, I pretty much said the same thing. There's I applauded the Michigan authorities and the state's attorney in pursuing
Yeah.
this type of case because I have seen time and time again where parents, where guardians, where the adult in charge just walked away from their responsibility.
Oh, it's in a way, it's good that this happened just because parents need to be held responsible for their children's actions when there are mental health issues. However, I have the question just popped into my mind for the father's case now, which could he be tried for child neglect too if they wanted to add that charge in? Or if I know she's appealing, so
Yes.
can they charge her then too for that?
They could, however, because the manslaughter charge
Mhm.
and verdict meets that higher standard of beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond a preponderance of the evidence, charging it with neglect. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if in the child abuse system they have an indicated case
Yeah.
of neglect or a guilty. In Illinois, we call it indicated or unfounded, but an indicated charge of neglect. I don't think they'll have any more children,
Yeah.
especially if they're serving time. But I would not be surprised that there was a concurrent investigation with child abuse and neglect investigators. With Mr. Crumley, um, if he was smart, uh, I would take a plea because his wife during the trial stated that it was his responsibility to make sure that the gun was secured, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She can't walk away from her responsibility. She's just as responsible.
Yeah.
She's a grown ass adult.
She had the gun last, and she put it in the case.
Hmm.
She was too busy with her affair
That's
to pay
right.
attention to it, and bullets under jeans, bullets under hidden jeans. What the
Yes.
father's excuse was.
Mm-mm. No.
Oof.
No, 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 no. It's it's sad again, and I don't know what more to say about the victims.
Yeah.
It's sad to see that there appears to be no answer in regards to gun violence
Mhm.
in our schools. Again, a community of 22,000, Oxford, Michigan, a community of 22,000 people. They know each other, they know each other well. And for this to happen, to see a young man decline in his mental health is it's disappointing to
Yeah.
see and see that the parents miss a great opportunity to intervene.
Mhm. I'm curious to see how this will affect the Second Amendment, if it'll even affect the Second Amendment.
Right. I know Kellen and I were
Mhm.
talking about this in our Discord chat, and whew, you know that the Second Amendment, the 2A advocates are going to be all over this.
Yeah.
Um, However, people have to understand when we have children, we're responsible for them. I've always thought that raising my boys, that whatever they do, they're a reflection of me.
Mhm.
And therefore, I've got to make sure that I give them the guidance and the discipline and the moral base that they need to make good decisions, sound decisions to keep themselves and the people around them safe. And so I to read about this and then to read about the care for her horses, the affair. Hey,
Oh,
adults are going to adult, that's fine and everything, but the amount of attention she paid to the horses
yeah.
versus Ethan,
Mhm.
she was afraid to go into his room. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of his bedroom,
No,
but
I
it
haven't.
was like a derelict. It was like
Mhm.
it was trash. I was like, no, you go into your kids' room. They don't. They're
Yeah.
not renting from you. They don't own the house. Go into your room. Tell your son to get it together. Oh, your son can't get it together because he's suffering from mental health issues. Get him the help.
Yeah. And oh, it's just, if she would have done one thing differently, like cared a little bit more instead of focusing on the horses or the affair or buying him a gun at 15,
Oh my goodness.
that okay, I get it. Second Amendment rights, everybody has the right to go to a gun range and practice shooting. It's an activity that
Yes.
families can do together. But for someone who has struggled with mental health, that the parents have known, they took it as a joke and chose to take it as a joke, they do not need to be buying a kid who is 15 a gun, a handheld gun.
Yeah.
And the gun safe in their house, the password was 000.
Right.
Are you guys crazy?
That's the factory default on the gun safe.
Like, what are you
000.
doing?
Come on. And the cable lock,
Mhm.
according to the forensic experts, stated that it looked brand new.
Yeah. No.
It was not used. Wow. Talk about setting yourself up for the catastrophic failure.
Mhm. it just baffles me that she even tried to plead not guilty.
Oh,
Like, but there were the text messages we were just talking about
yes.
with her partner in the alleged affair, not
Right.
alleged, the affair, where he testified against her. And there were text messages saying that after the shooting had just happened, she needed to flee. She needed to get out of there.
Right. And that's what they did.
Like, you're crazy.
It was a manhunt out for them.
Yeah. No. Ugh.
You weren't going on vacation.
No. She's trying to sell her horses to get some extra money.
$6,000 could take you so far.
Yeah. I don't
But
know.
really, wow.
I hope she gets even a longer sentence, honestly.
Well, she faces up to 15 years in prison, and the hearing will be set for that. She is entitled to an appeal of her decision. I like to see what the constitutional law experts have to say in regards to the appeal.
Is
However,
Shannon Smith still going to represent her?
well, it's probably the best bet that she's got right now. And even her
defense was just the fact that they were playing on the innocent mom. And then, like I was talking about earlier, the comment she made, that stupid comment in front of all of the victims' families when her computer wasn't working. She said, "I'm going to kill myself."
Yeah.
As a joke. But that is so inappropriate and so unprofessional in front of such a national case.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Not she didn't graduate from the top of her class, probably. And she made the comment about, I'm a busy mom too. Sometimes I don't take a shower. We need to know that. Everyone's busy. We have busy lives. But when we have children, they should be the priority.
Yes.
They're the reflection of us. And Ethan was not a good reflection on his parents. He needed help. And yes, he suffered. He was neglected. And to some extent, he is a victim. However, that does not absolve him of the responsibility in the deaths of his classmates.
I
hope
wrong. This case causes so many families and so many parents to check in on their kids.
Yes.
Like, that is the biggest takeaway, the positive takeaway we can take from this, and hopefully stop the shootings, because this could be stopped. Like, there was so many ways to stop this.
So many. So please, we will love to hear what you have to say on this particular matter. We've been following this case for some time. If you recall, we had a prior episode in regards to this, and the verdict is in. Jennifer Crumbley, guilty of misdemeanor charges and connected to the mass shooting at Oxford High School in Michigan by her son, Ethan Crumbley, who is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. So please share, hit the notification button, join our community. You can do that by clicking the link in the description. Subscribe to our newsletter, The Informer. Thank you, Danielle, for the last edition.
And Angelina.
Check out our blog. Of course, comment in the comment section of all of our podcast properties. You Can Make This Shit Up, our flagship podcast, The Morning Constitution, The David Washington Show, and of course, Countertop Politics. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Kellen. Thank you, Angelina. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Zach. Who else am I missing? Thank you, Jesus. I think I got everyone covered. But anyway, this is You Can't Make This Shit Up. I was about to say the David Washington Show. I'm just on a roll. You Can't Make This Shit Up with Danielle and David. We'll see you the next time. Thank you.